Good morning and happy Friday. And I am so welcoming fall being in the Houston area. I just love it and everything that comes with it. But I'm here today with my co-host Jeff to talk about fraud and how you don't want to fall for these fraud scammer tricks. We've got about 6. I know there's more, and I encourage you to share this video with family, friends, loved ones that need to know, and everyone needs to know and be aware because it's getting rampant, which is why I was really moved. My heart was moved to share and do a segment on this because I know there's got to be people out there who are confused, who are going to be victims. Maybe they're not victims yet. So please, please, please share this video and please chime in, share with us anything that you might have. It'll be on the string. If you're watching it on Facebook, we're streaming on about 7 sites, and you can also hear it on podcast. Sharing is caring. So without further ado, let me add my co-host. And if we haven't met, I'm Kat Trulinos with Kat's Home Chat, CEO and master magic maker for Tada by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design. And please welcome Jeff Spike Wong.
Hey.
Yay.
Okay, you can hear me, no problem, right?
I can hear you. Absolutely. Okay. No problem.
So, I'm having to do this on social media while I'm doing this.
Yep, he's our proctor as well. So bear with us on that. So let's get right into the meat of this. And I'm going to say that I've gathered so many in the last probably almost a year, and it's gaining momentum is the problem. I'm going to start off with PayPal because I have received PayPal scams, multiple. I'm talking probably a dozen times. The first time I was totally panicked because it was a PayPal for renewing my McAfee virus. Has the logo, and I'm going to go ahead and add this to the stream here. This isn't this particular one, but as you can see, here's your invoice. This is for your subscription, $399. So it looks official. It looks like PayPal. I deal a lot with PayPal. I recently, actually just this morning, got a notice saying that I've been compromised and they believe I've been compromised. Contact them. But it was on this bogus sheet. So I don't know where they go with once you either email them or, contact them. There's a way for them to phish your information, is my understanding. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes.
They're phishing your information is our understanding. And then from there, they can do all kinds of stuff in terms of identity. And we're going to dive deep into the different ways of identity theft and how that can affect you and your family. I'm going to remove this so we can be on the screen here. So PayPal is huge. Don't call the number. Don't email them back. One of the things that Jeff told me the first time I was alarmed by this was he said to look down on the drop-down menu on who it says it's to. And most of the times, but they're getting slicker because this morning it didn't have a whole stream. But typically it'll have a bunch of odd names. So they're just, spamming, robo emailing or what have you. It's not coming directly from PayPal. So that's a telltale right there. But the best way to do is to just what I did this morning. I went on my PayPal account. I looked at activity. There was nothing indicated in this fraud email. Now, if you look at the small print, typically they're saying you're going to be invoiced this $649 or this $399. If it's not you, contact us. Don't contact them. Do not contact them. Not email, not, calling at all. Just go in and check your account. So Jenny just sent something over, John, about Bitcoin. Have you heard about that, Jeff?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's basically saying, here's your Bitcoin, here's your order, here's your price, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just beware. You get something from Bitcoin, probably fraud. Ignore it, delete it, do not respond, do not contact them at all. So that's PayPal. Beware of PayPal. Number two, and this is quite rampant, but maybe you haven't been victimized yet. I remember the day I was sitting in front of Costco and I got a phone call saying that it was the Montgomery County Police Department, and I had warrants out for my arrest that I hadn't paid for traffic bills or something like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Right? Do you remember when I called you, Jeff?
Yes.
And he immediately told me, reality check, the police department is never going to call you to say you have a warrant out for your arrest. It doesn't happen. They're just going to, when they stop you, then they pull your whatever and you've got warrants. But they're never going to give you a courtesy call, right? That's the same, right, Jeff? And that's the same with the IRS. I've heard of that from many people. This is the IRS calling in, you've got back payment, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you didn't abort them quickly, like I did, they could take you down a black hole. And I just read one on Next Door Neighbor where she went as far as pulling $1,000 out of the bank. And her flags were up. Why she didn't stop, God knows. There's that questionable, he was just so convincing, right? In all the details. But the big telling factor is she was not to get off the phone the whole time. Finally, she came to her senses and aborted it, but she came close to being scammed, for $1,000 and who knows how much more. Gift cards. I know personal associates and personally myself who have attempted to be scammed. And this is kind of scary. So what happened to me is I got a text from an individual I know. And the text said, "Hey, Kat, I'm really busy. I'm tied up in this meeting, but I need some gift cards. Can you go and get me X number of gift cards, this denomination, yada, yada, yada." And of course, my flags went up, but it seems legit because it's coming from the person that I know, that I have in my contacts in my cell phone. So I called his office because I knew his office number. And luckily he was there and he said, "No, that is not me." So that's pretty scary that there's technology out there for these frauders that can mirror or duplicate your cell phone and then communicate with family, friends, or loved ones and ask you to do who knows what based on that you think that's them. Scary. Very scary.
Yeah.
Any notes on that, Jeff?
I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands this is about taking your money. The whole thing is about it started with, of course, the email scams. Remember, all the way back to the Prince of Nigeria, or I have a very rich family. I'm due for an inheritance. If you can help me. We've dealt with so many frauds in real estate business, and I'm sure Kat can elaborate on that. That goes all the way back to those type of emails and luring, the desperates and the lonelies and maybe the ones that just did not know any better.
Not knowing, the mentally challenged, I mean, yeah. we know that firsthand. They just take advantage, from posing as other people and cloning cell phones and so forth. So I recently saw a post. I shared it with you, Jeff, and this was a police officer.
Yeah.
You want to explain that one with the QR codes?
Yeah, basically what this officer has stated that you will receive a package with no return address. And of course, curiosity kills the cat. You're going to want to know, well, what is it? What am I getting? And you open it up and it'll have a box and it has a QR code and it asks you to scan it. Supposedly.
No return address. No, it's got your information on it, but know where it came from. Looks like an Amazon package, you get them all the time, but go ahead.
Right. So it encourages you to scan the QR code for additional information. And according to the officer, if you scan the QR code, something goes and captures your information in your phone.
Everything in your phone. Now, there was comments. Some people said, oh, that can't be done, this and this and that. Whether it's true or not, I would err on the cautious side, because knowing the way AI is accelerating, and with AI, of course, you've always got the dark side of AI, not helping you write a resume or helping you with a letter, but the very dark side. And can you just imagine if you did that? I mean, it's going to scare people from doing any QR codes. It's like, we have a QR code for my book, for my business. Like, if you know them, of course, but beware of QR codes you don't know, particularly in packages, because can you imagine everything, your identity, your codes, your passwords, everything we keep in these, pint-sized computers? They've got it. And who knows,
Right.
I mean, it's just, that's a hole that you don't want to ever get into.
Yeah. Better be safe than sorry. Always be cautious. If it seems suspect, trust your instinct. This is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people tend to get drawn into, which is, this doesn't seem right, but let me go and keep on following it.
Yes, because they sound so convincing, like this gal on Next Door Neighbor, even though her flags were up, he was compelling enough. They're swift, they're smart. He was compelling enough for her to go the next step, almost slippery slope.
Yeah.
Never coming back.
Yeah. So a couple of good rule of thumbs. Okay. Nobody will offer you free money in exchange for something. Just like that, without knowing who you are, your business, or having any kind of relationship. And this happens in the professional realm quite a bit. Like I said, in the real estate business, we get leads that just doesn't seem right, because the kind of questions they're asking and the kind of information they're offering. And ultimately, we've had personally experienced people saying, hey, you know what? We're from another country. We're buying from a church, for a church, this house. So therefore, the only thing what we can do is send you a cashier's check. What I want you to do is take that and then send me back the leftover.
That's called money laundering. So this was my experience.
Well, it's not even money laundering, because they have no money to launder. The check is fake.
Oh, that's right. So this was an actual experience. Now, this is decades ago when I was working for a builder. Literally, they sent a check. And it was not uncommon back in that time to buy a home, especially from California, sight unseen. I sold homes sight unseen, and sometimes they were cash.
Yeah.
But this one was suspect. Once we got the check, of course, we investigated, and it was a bogus check.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about the staging world. And if you are a home stager, or even in the real estate business, maybe, and you work with home stagers, I'm on the MLS on Facebook, and I see a lot of folks who get a scam that I've gotten, a couple of years ago, a very detailed email stating that they're from out of state or out of country. They've purchased a home, and they're going to have all the furnishings and decor delivered, and they want to know if my services can put it together for them. One red flag that came up for me, and it's usually obvious, is the language is not exactly perfect, so it's a foreigner, some kind of robo translation. But the most glaring thing for me was over sharing. My son is this and he likes this hobby and all this stuff that, like, you really don't need to know that to do a business transaction, but their attempt is to gain your, sympathy or, simpatico, that you forget about that this is all a lie. Another one is that they'll say they're deaf. They're deaf, so we need to communicate only on email, or WhatsApp is another one. And I know you realtors out there, many seasoned realtors have gotten that, where I just want to communicate on WhatsApp. I mean, I've gotten that on Marketplace, selling thing on Marketplace. Like, no, I don't do WhatsApp. Well, why do they want to do WhatsApp? Well, to my understanding, because it can't be traced. Okay. So you can't trace back to find out who they were. Now, on my incident, the first one on furnishing, or decorating this out-of-state person, I had the wherewithal to go, let me check and see the ownership. I went into the tax rolls for the county and I checked the address, and lo and behold, this individual did not own the property. So I immediately emailed back and said, I don't think we're a good fit, but thank you. I wish there was a way to, and if somebody knows, a way to report these, so that maybe it would mitigate, the velocity in which we're seeing them. But at minimum, you need to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your loved ones, protect your money, your businesses, etc., by just taking a step back. As Jeff said, follow your gut. If something don't seem right, it's probably not. If something flags you, it's probably something dark.
Yeah.
So go with your.
Don't keep perpetuating the situation because of guilt. This is one of the things that they prey on.
Yes.
Is that how much time that you have invested into this, and they will keep on emotionally manipulate you to the point where you feel that I've gone too far to admit that I'm taken. And we've seen this in person of somebody saying, yeah, I didn't feel right, but no, I don't know. Please tell me, why do you feel so guilty?
They're swift. Remember the guy in the community in Cypress, honey, when I was working for a builder?
Yeah.
And here's where, these scammers, frauders, scumbags prey on lonely, needy, unaware senior citizen people. Yep. It's really sad. And this gentleman was in a wheelchair. I never met him. I don't know how we connected. He lived in the community. I think he had called me about something, maybe something we had for sale. And he had about a 6-month relationship with a gal from, where was it? Like Dubai or something? I think it was Dubai. And he was convinced that he had a connection with this gal. They even, had video connections, communication, etc. And she groomed him, no different than the sexual grooming. She groomed him and convinced him that she was, some kind of princess, and she had all these bars of gold, but she couldn't convert them because of some logistics of here and there. So she convinced him that for a temporary, to help her out so she could come to see him, which of course she never did.
Right.
Bottom line is, he wiped out $45,000. And when I last spoke with him, he still was not, he was still hopeful. He just was so lonely and so hopeful and so convinced that this woman cared about him, that, who knows how much more she took him for,
Right.
Very sad.
Right. So a couple of rule of thumbs that let me share with everyone here. that it's absolutely a red flag for scams. Number one, the Internal Revenue Service has released a memo to let you know they will never call you unless you have a relationship with an agent on an audit or something of that nature.
A particular claim or an audit.
Right.
Yep.
But they send out form letters to start the process. That's how they work. Okay. So don't ever think somebody calls you up and starts saying, hey, you have this and you have that. No phone calls should go forward until you stop and then go back and research it. And what that means is literally, if somebody from the sheriff's office calls you and says you have a bench warrant and you need to give me money to eliminate me coming over to arrest you, fine. Put that person on hold, call the sheriff's office and ask for the, saying, I have detected fraud and let me ask what's going on. So by doing those due diligence, that extra step, you will unearth and find that most situations already have reports, already had people complaining about these things. And that should immediately let you know that, I'm just part of this big pond. And you have to know that the scammers look at this as a numbers game, just like in sales. Yep. The next one's going to say yes. The next one's going to say yes. And all they need to do is land one.
And that's what's sad, because they wouldn't continue. You and I talked about this, Jeff. They wouldn't continue to do it with such veracity if they were not getting success. But again, it's a numbers game. So they can, dial 1,000 numbers or have and then bang. Right. Even one out of 1,000 is going to be a home run for them. And so they continue to do it. They've sharpened their skills. Technology has been advanced.
Yep.
So, what you mentioned, don't ever, from a police department or IRS, they're never going to call you. So don't take those calls, serious hang up, call put them on hold, whatever you feel compelled to do.
Yep.
Secondly, in your emails, never pay a bill. Back when I'm going to date myself, but when I sold Yellow Page advertising back in the 80s.
Gee, what's that?
It was
Google on paper.
It was the paper Google. It was Google on paper. Exactly. And I remember hearing that, and I was floored that someone was, when I was trying to renew their ad or get a new ad or whatever, that here's what happens. You've got a clerk and they're just, paid. They pay everything that comes in. And evidently someone was out there selling full pages, which back then could be 1,000 a month. Okay. And they'd never get a full page. And the receptionist was just, they'd send in the bill, paid. Like, wow. That was before digital, age. These were just, groundbreaking scammers, that would do that.
As long as there's money, there's always going to be scams. Let's just really be realistic about this. There's always somebody who's going to try to take advantage on somebody who's not paying attention or somebody who doesn't know or understand what's going on. So that's huge.
Yep. And you know what it reminds me of? Another business that I was in, credit card processing for a minute. And let me tell you about a fraud on that. So if you ever have, I don't know how they do it today with credit card processing, but typically, you deliver, the rep delivers the machine and then programs it for the money to go, the credit card to go into their business bank account, right?
Yeah.
So this associate that I know with a criminal mind decided that he's going to, on Thanksgiving weekend, because we know that's the highest retail, 60% of retail is done during the Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. So he goes in and he has all his installations, I don't know how many, on that weekend, and programs everything to go into his bank account. Yeah. Needless to say, he's probably in prison still. Yeah. This is many, many decades ago.
So you know how they're doing it now? They're covering it by using skimmers. Okay?
What's that?
Skimmers is a add-on piece that goes onto the pin pad that you see at the local stores where you put your credit card and do your transaction. This is an add-on piece that's very thin, and it has the capability to fit directly onto the unit. And when you swipe your card, it actually does not go through the original system that it was intended to, but it goes to the system of the people who install the skimmer. This happens quite a bit in convenience stores for gas pumps and, you know, the incidental.
So the owners of the convenience stores aren't doing it. Someone's coming in and slapping on.
Well, you know, that's subjective, because I actually seen, you know, video clips of convenience store clerks or owners looking mighty guilty. So, you know, again, it's about taking advantage of people. And let's really look at the bigger picture here. We are now in such a digital world that almost everything that you have that is really the important information about you, your financials, your health, your background, all are somewhere floating around on the internet. Because it's capable, because you're pulling that information, your facility has that information to have. And one of the biggest issue that we're having is data breaching. Okay. When you hear stuff like a major store having their data breached, being that their database was stolen. And we have this firsthand, seen other companies that we're close to having somebody come walking in, work in the business for, I don't know, X amount of months. And next thing you know, they have the key to the house, so to speak, and they take the database and sell it in a black market. Now, what would they do with all this information if it's all out there, and how do you protect it? Well, you got to do your due diligence, because once the information is out there, then whatever the hackers are buying and selling and so forth, they're going to piecemeal stuff together to create campaigns, to sell you, to get you to bite, because they have all the information. Like,
and you know, and that's everywhere. I mean, you know, we're on the internet a lot. With the business, we've got to, you know, do a lot of purchasing on Amazon, et cetera. And anybody who's not living under a tree knows, you know, not only does it hear us, you search on something and now you're getting ads, you know, hundreds of ads based on whatever that was. You know, part of it makes it a little bit more convenient, but it makes us digitally, you know, overconsumed, vulnerable and overconsumed. You know, like right now, I'm glad I'm getting Barstool ads, because, you know, I had a fire on September 1st and I lost one of my units, almost $80,000 worth of inventory, all chairs and Barstools. So I've got to replace those, you know, little by little. So part of it can be okay, but you've got to be intentional. You've got to do your due diligence. You've got to pay attention. So one thing on, you know, most people know about airport, you know, fraud, someone looking over your shoulder, things like that, when you're putting in codes. One thing, if you don't have, is I think they call it an RFID, radio frequency intermittent whatever detector, but it's, you can put all of your important cards. This one I'm just using for business cards, but I have another one that has my credit cards, my license, etc. So that no one just going by can skim, as you call it, scam, or steal your banking and personal information. So if you don't have one, I'm sure they make it for men also, an RFID wallet. You know, it's an inexpensive precaution, you know, for you know, protecting your most vulnerable information. So we're coming right at 10:30, Jeff, and you know, have an appointment coming up soon. If you have something else you want to mention, I'm going to point out the very last, the IA.
Yeah, let me share this real quick. You know, the smart cards and credit cards and debit cards are making accessible the money easier for you, but also for everybody else. So instead of tapping for your payments, you need to insert your card. When you're tapping it, it creates that energy out. And if somebody out there was with the scanner, they can take that.
See, I did not know that, Jeff.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah. Well,
So,
there's just
okay.
so much. There's so much going on.
And it's accelerating. So,
Yeah.
guys, that's worth repeating.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
all this
cool
is
to tap, but don't tap.
You want to
Insert.
share it with, especially with the elderly who is just not paying attention, not knowing how
They
deep
don't know.
in this technology, how they can scam. And I'll give you an example real quick. When somebody calls up and they're saying, "Hey, this is so and so," this is why the information is important. When somebody
Okay,
can
that was my last point. That was my last point, Jeff. Let me talk about that, please.
Well, hold on 1 second. Let me just say this: that when people get on the phone, they know how to play this game. Like for instance, if I go, Kat, what I have for your social is 88666. Then you go, oh no. And it goes, oh, well, then I must got this wrong. Let me, give me your number and let me correct this. And this could be somebody calling you from a bank, which never happens.
Yes, we talked about that. Yes. And that's so easy to fall into that. Yeah. Well, aren't you, and doesn't your end with it? Oh, no, it doesn't. And you correct them. That's your knee-jerk reaction. You want to correct them. Don't correct them. Don't give them any information.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good one. You and I talked about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To protect yourself. Just be aware. And you don't know someone, don't pick up the phone. I tell my daughter that all the time. There's so many, scam callers out there, and just with my business, sometimes I do pick up the phone because they're very tricky. Sometimes it'll look like it's in your contacts, but it's not really. They just know the name. So I will pick it up because, that's how I deal. It's like I pride myself on being very responsive to clients and potential clients. But when I pick it up and I say, "This is Kat," if I hear a click, click, I hang up. Yeah. Because that's that space. They think it's just it's going to go right to voicemail, but they're not expecting you to pick up. So when you pick up, they have to push another button. That's when you hear the click, click, and that's when you click. Right. You don't even need to say hi, just click.
Yeah.
So last point. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. That's a great one, because that's just so easy to, come out of your mouth, not realizing, and they sound so official.
Right.
So the last point. This one is super scary, guys. If you have kids, young kids, adult kids, family. Again, IA. We all know IA can clone us, our bodies, and you can make videos. I mean, yeah, some of them you can sell, some of them you can't tell, but they can clone your voice. In fact, that's another reason why you don't even want to say hello or talk to people that you don't know on the phone, because they could be recording your voice. In fact, sometimes what they do is they just get you to say yes, and they record the yes, and then they use that for something else. The dark road that goes down to. Okay. But you need to have a family, what do you call it? Emergency word, or code word. Okay. So that if you do get a call, your child gets a call and it sounds like your mom or your dad, say, "Hey, this is Mom. Hey, I need you to, come over here or do this," or whatever the directions are. Put your inner knower, feelers out there. If you have even a twinge of uncertainty, ask, "Okay, Mom, what's the code word again?"
Yeah.
So have a family code word that you can use, because I'm going to tell you, this is coming quicker than you think. These IA voice replicator scammers, and that's pretty scary.
Yeah, we could do hours on this. There's no question that this is a situation that affects all of us. Mm-hmm. But the prey upon the weak is something that we absolutely have to stop.
Yes.
Grandma, grandpa don't deserve this. And Ellen, whoever it may be in the family that is somewhat on their own, isolated, and are unaware.
They are more susceptible. Not to say, I'm somewhat tech savvy, but not scam savvy. This is all new to me. And fortunately, I have someone to run it by. But if you're by yourself, and you don't have someone who's tech savvy that you can quickly go, hey, let me get a second opinion here. You could fall prey to some bad stuff. So
never buy prepaid credit cards or those type of gift cards. There's no reason for this. Never go into the bank and get cashier's check to send somebody for a refund. There's no reason for this.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's the gift card one.
So all these little things that if you get these instructions, it is a clue for you to immediately hang up and report.
Abort.
Yes. But you need to report to the authorities possible to let them know, because they're collecting data files. Eventually there's a certain scam, like the Nigerian prince scam. We don't see that anymore. Right. But I promise you they replaced it with something else.
Exactly. So guys, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you're enjoying the onset of fall, especially if you're in Houston. We're not in triple digits anymore. You can come back from Brazil, Adriana. It'll be cooler. And so enjoy it, and please share this with those that need to know, which is everyone, and have a blessed, wonderful, and safe weekend.
Yes.
See you next week. Bye.